Most people don't lose friends. They lose illusions they were emotionally attached to. This is not a story about betrayal. This is a lesson about perception, attachment, and psychological awakening. Some people don't hurt you directly. They drain you slowly. They don't attack your life. They quietly weaken your self-trust. And by the time you notice, you're questioning yourself more than them. If you've ever felt confused, emotionally exhausted, or suddenly distant from someone you trusted, this isn't coincidence. This is psychology revealing itself. Human beings are not wired for truth first. They're wired for belonging. Before your brain asks, "Is this person good for me?" it asks, "Will I be alone if I lose them?" From the moment you are born, your nervous system learns through connection. Approval becomes safety. Attention becomes worth. Absence becomes threat. These patterns don't disappear with age. They evolve. As adults, we still chase emotional security, but we call it friendship, love, loyalty, or community. A fake friend doesn't appear suddenly. They enter quietly, through emotional permission. That permission is created by familiarity, and familiarity is not the same as safety. Psychologically, the brain prefers what it recognizes, even if it's harmful. If inconsistency, emotional unpredictability, or conditional affection existed early in your life, your nervous system learned how to survive it. Not because it was healthy, but because it was known. So later, when a friend shows up with warmth one day and distance the next, your mind doesn't panic, it adapts. This adaptation is dangerous. You start rationalizing behavior that should concern you. You normalize neglect. You minimize disrespect. You reinterpret silence as misunderstanding. And every time you do this, you betray a small part of yourself, not consciously, but neurologically. Fake friends exploit this gap between awareness and attachment, not intentionally in most cases, but instinctively. They sense who will tolerate emotional inconsistency. They sense who gives without demanding reciprocity. They sense who confuses loyalty with endurance. Philosophically, this is where dignity erodes. Aristotle described 3 types of friendships: utility, pleasure, and virtue. Fake friends operate almost exclusively in the first 2. They remain as long as the relationship provides advantage, entertainment, validation, or access. The moment depth, sacrifice, or moral alignment is required, they retreat. What hurts isn't their departure. What hurts is realizing you were emotionally invested in someone who never stood on the same level of commitment. Psychology explains this pain as cognitive dissonance, the conflict between what you believed and what you experienced. Philosophy describes it as the collapse of illusion, and illusion always collapses painfully. But here's the truth most people miss. The pain is not evidence of weakness, it's evidence of capacity. You cared deeply, you invested honestly, you showed up authentically. The problem was never your depth, it was where you placed it. Growth begins when you stop asking, "Why did they treat me this way?" and start asking, "Why did I allow myself to stay?" That question is not blame, it's liberation. Fake friends rarely reveal themselves through dramatic betrayal. They reveal themselves through patterns: quiet, repetitive, emotionally draining patterns. One of the most telling signs is selective emotional availability. They are present when things are light, entertaining, or beneficial, but when life becomes heavy, when you're struggling, uncertain, or vulnerable, they distance themselves. Not with cruelty, but with excuses. This behavior is rooted in emotional immaturity. Deep connection requires emotional labor, empathy, and discomfort. Fake friends avoid this because it threatens their internal stability. Your pain asks them to be more than they are ready to be. Another key sign is competitive support. They clap for you, but not fully. Their praise feels rushed, forced, or followed by subtle comparison. Your success becomes a mirror that reflects what they haven't done, and instead of using it as motivation, they feel diminished. Psychologically, this is ego defense. Your growth destabilizes their self-image, so they withdraw emotionally, they change tone, they reduce contact. Then there's conversational imbalance. You listen deeply, you remember details, you show curiosity. They interrupt, redirect, center themselves. When you share pain, they respond with their own story, not to connect, but to reclaim attention. This isn't empathy, it's emotional self-preservation. Another powerful indicator is absence during transformation. When you begin setting boundaries, improving your mindset, prioritizing peace, fake friends feel uncomfortable. They preferred you when you were accessible, available, and emotionally flexible. Growth threatens access, so they label you changed, distant, different. But what they really mean is, you no longer behave in a way that benefits me. Philosophically, this is where clarity emerges. Real friendship evolves with growth. Fake friendship dissolves under it. Here is the hardest truth to accept. Fake friends don't leave when you fall. They leave when you rise beyond the role they assigned you. And that realization cuts deep because it forces you to confront not only who they were, but who you were being around them. But clarity always hurts before it heals. Letting go hurts more than staying, because staying preserves illusion, and the human mind is addicted to illusion when it promises emotional safety. Psychologically, the brain does not bond to consistency alone. It bonds to unpredictability mixed with reward. This is why people stay in relationships that confuse them. This is why fake friendships feel harder to leave than honest ones. Intermittent connection activates dopamine, not peace. Your nervous system stays alert, waiting, hoping, anticipating. That state feels like attachment, but it is actually dependence. A fake friend rarely offers steady presence. They appear just enough to keep you emotionally invested. A message after silence, support after neglect, kindness after distance. Each moment resets hope, and hope convinces you that leaving would be premature, dramatic, or ungrateful. So you stay. You don't stay because you are weak. You stay because your brain is searching for resolution. The mind wants closure. It wants meaning. It wants to believe that effort will eventually be rewarded. But fake friendships do not resolve. They loop, and every loop costs you emotional energy. Philosophically, this is attachment to potential instead of reality. You grieve not who the person is, but who you imagined they could be. You remain loyal to a version of them that never fully existed, and that loyalty slowly disconnects you from yourself. Letting go forces you to confront loss honestly. It removes fantasy. It exposes the truth that effort does not create alignment, that care cannot manufacture character, that consistency cannot be negotiated. This realization feels like failure at first, not because you failed them, but because you invested identity into the relationship. You shaped parts of yourself around access, approval, and emotional proximity. Walking away feels like tearing something out of your own structure. But pain is not punishment. Pain is information. It tells you where your boundaries were absent. It reveals where your standards were silent. It exposes where your self-worth waited for external permission. Growth has never occurred without separation. Every psychological evolution requires release. The nervous system must experience emptiness before it can recalibrate, silence before clarity, distance before discernment. When you finally let go, the mind protests. It replays memories. It questions decisions. It imagines alternate outcomes. This is not regret. This is neurological withdrawal from emotional reinforcement. If you endure this phase without returning, something shifts. You stop checking. You stop explaining. You stop rehearsing conversations that will never happen. And slowly, peace replaces confusion. Not excitement, not relief. Peace. That peace is unfamiliar at first because chaos once felt like connection. But over time, your nervous system learns a new baseline, one that does not require vigilance, one that does not depend on uncertainty. Letting go hurts because it ends a psychological addiction, but staying would have ended your self-respect. And the moment you understand that distinction, the pain begins to transform into power. Boundaries are not walls. They are signals. They communicate how you relate to yourself long before they affect how others treat you. Psychologically, boundaries regulate the nervous system. When boundaries are weak, the mind stays alert, scanning for emotional threat. You overthink messages. You rehearse responses. You tolerate discomfort to avoid conflict. This constant self-adjustment drains mental energy. Fake friends benefit from boundarylessness. Access without accountability allows them to take without reciprocation. They grow comfortable in your flexibility. They rely on your silence. They interpret your understanding as permission. The moment you introduce boundaries, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly, expectations are clear. Availability is limited. Emotional labor is no longer automatic. And this clarity feels threatening to those who are never invested in mutual respect. This is why fake friends resist boundaries. They guilt you. They accuse you of changing. They minimize your needs. They frame your self-protection as selfishness. But boundaries are not punishment. They are alignment. Philosophically, boundaries represent self-knowledge. They emerge when you stop asking, "How do I keep this connection?" and start asking, "What does this connection cost me?" When the cost exceeds your peace, a boundary becomes necessary. Many people fear boundaries because they fear abandonment. But abandonment is not caused by boundaries, it is revealed by them. Those who only stayed for access will leave when access is removed. Those who value you will adjust. This distinction is liberating. Boundaries teach you that loss is not always negative. Sometimes it is informational. Sometimes it removes confusion. Sometimes it clears space for healthier connections to exist. When you set boundaries, your identity shifts. You no longer define yourself through availability. You no longer prove worth through endurance. You no longer equate loyalty with self-sacrifice. You begin to choose peace without explanation. Psychologically, this recalibrates your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must earn respect. You recognize that respect responds to clarity, not compliance. Fake friends interpret boundaries as rejection because boundaries expose entitlement. They remove the illusion that access is guaranteed, and entitlement cannot survive clarity. This is why boundaries feel lonely at first. The circle becomes smaller. Conversations become fewer. Invitations reduce, but the energy returns. Mental noise decreases. Emotional stability improves. You are no longer negotiating your worth in every interaction. Philosophically, boundaries mark the transition from emotional dependency to sovereignty. You become the authority of your inner world. You decide what enters. You decide what stays. You decide what leaves. This autonomy is power. Not dominance, not control. Power over self. And once this shift occurs, your relationships transform naturally. You attract people who respect clarity. You repel those who require confusion. Boundaries do not isolate you. They refine your environment. And in that refined space, real connection becomes possible. Not forced, not chased, not tolerated, chosen. Real connection does not create anxiety. It creates grounding. The nervous system relaxes in the presence of authenticity. The mind does not scan for threat. The heart does not prepare for disappointment. Psychology confirms this. Healthy relationships regulate emotional states. They stabilize mood. They support identity rather than fragment it. You are not required to perform, prove, or protect yourself constantly. Fake friendships do the opposite. They deregulate, they exhaust, they demand adaptation. Over time, they disconnect you from intuition. This is why clarity feels like relief. Philosophically, real connection is based on alignment, not attachment. Attachment clings to presence. Alignment respects direction. Two people do not need to walk forever together to be meaningful. They need to walk honestly while they do. When you release fake friends, you create space for alignment. That space often feels empty at first. Silence replaces stimulation, stillness replaces emotional drama, and stillness can feel uncomfortable when chaos was familiar. But stillness is where truth becomes audible. You begin to notice how your body feels around certain people. You trust subtle signals again. You recognize that peace is not boring, it is nourishing. Real friends do not compete with your growth. They protect it. They do not demand access to your wounds. They respect your healing. They do not interpret boundaries as distance. They see them as clarity. These relationships are rare, and that rarity gives them value. Psychologically, you stop seeking validation when your environment reflects your worth. You stop explaining yourself when your presence is enough. You stop tolerating inconsistency when consistency becomes the standard. Your inner power does not come from control. It comes from discernment. You know who belongs, you know who does not, and you no longer argue with that knowledge. Philosophy teaches that freedom is not found in accumulation, but in subtraction. Removing what drains you restores what sustains you. Removing distortion reveals truth. Removing noise amplifies intuition. This is not isolation. This is refinement. As your circle becomes intentional, your energy becomes focused, mental clarity improves, emotional stability deepens, purpose sharpens. You move differently, you speak differently, you choose differently. And people notice. Not because you demand attention, but because you are no longer fragmented. You are integrated, grounded, self-aligned. The ultimate gift of losing fake friends is not better company, it's a better relationship with yourself. You trust your perception again. You honor your limits. You choose peace without guilt. This is inner power. Not loud, not aggressive, not performative. Quiet, stable, unshakable. And once you experience this level of self-respect, you will never again confuse attachment with love, access with loyalty, or presence with alignment. You will choose truth, and truth will always choose you back. What hurts most is not losing people. It's realizing who they never truly were. When fake friends leave, they don't just exit your life. They take illusions with them. Illusions you invested time, emotion, and identity into. And when those illusions collapse, the emptiness feels unbearable at first. But emptiness is not failure. Emptiness is space. Space for clarity. Space for peace. Space for self-return. You begin to hear your own thoughts again. Your intuition speaks louder. Your nervous system relaxes. The constant emotional negotiation ends. And slowly, you realize something profound. You didn't lose connection. You lost distortion. Distortion of worth. Distortion of loyalty. Distortion of love. Fake friends leave behind lessons that shape discernment. They teach you where you compromised yourself, where you stayed silent, where you overgave. And once you learn that, you don't repeat it. You stop forcing closeness. You stop chasing consistency. You stop explaining your boundaries. You become still. And stillness attracts truth. Real connections don't demand effort. They demand presence. They don't exhaust you. They expand you. And the most important relationship you reclaim through this process is the one with yourself. You trust yourself again. You honor your feelings. You choose peace without guilt. That is not loneliness. That is sovereignty. You didn't lose friends. You lost what was never aligned. And in that loss, you gained yourself back.